Get up, get focused, and get into your passion. It's time to moyo everywhere we go. This is such an emotionally charged time. We all have triggers that set us off. And when we're emotionally charged, those triggers set us off and create explosions in our heart. And oftentimes we respond in ways that are bad for us and bad for those people around us. When we face a stressor or a trigger, our response is what is the most important thing that can happen, because triggers are going to happen. Stressors are going to happen. We can't stop those outside actors upon us. Things are going to happen that put stress on us, that trigger an emotional response. But the question is, how are we going to respond? What will our response be? Because that you can control. You can't control the triggers, but you can control the response. There's a piece of machine in any firearm, whether it be a gun or a rifle or even in explosives, that's called a firing pin. The firing pin is the structure that imparts an impact force on a compound that is combustible. So when you pull the trigger on a weapon, the trigger releases the firing pin, and the firing pin provides an impact force, or it strikes the combustible part of the firearm, whether it be a bullet or a grenade or whatever. But the firing pin is what causes the reaction. So if there is no firing pin, there is no reaction, there's no explosion. So if you have a gun and you pull the trigger and the firing pin's been removed, the bullet won't shoot. There'll be no explosion, there'll be no response. And so if we can figure a way to remove the firing pin in our lives that creates bad responses, that creates destructive and sometimes even deadly responses, then we can control our responses. Even though the triggers are still being pulled, it would be wonderful, amazing, if there was a way just to remove all the triggers in our lives. But we can't remove the triggers because the triggers are pulled by other people, by outside forces. Get on Facebook and look for just a few minutes. People are pulling triggers left and right. Same thing with Instagram, any social media. You watch the news, people are pulling triggers. So you can't stop the triggers from being pulled. But you can stop the explosion, the negative response, the destructive response, by removing the firing pin. What is the thing that's causing that response? And here's what I will tell you today. It is truth that diffuses the firing pins in our lives. It is truth that diffuses the firing pins in our lives. When a trigger is pulled, you have to ask yourself, what's the truth? What's the truth in this situation? And when you can take the time to slow down and ask yourself, what's the truth? And seek out the truth, then you can diffuse the response. You can diffuse the firing pin. But it takes control on our part. It takes work on our part to figure out what is the truth. That's your goal. That's your challenge. That's each and every one of us individual challenge to understand our truth, to seek for the truth, to find the truth, and then to activate that truth in our lives and to not respond until we know the truth. Truth diffuses the firing pins in our lives. Seek truth in your life. You've got the opportunity. Make the most of it. Moyo, everywhere we go.